Since this time last year, we stopped 426,000 claims as either confirmed or likely fraud.
So 427,000 suspected fraudulent unemployment claims. You just said you stopped them. Is that right?
That's correct.
So do you have a sense in that mix? Because we also hear from people who say, oh my gosh, my claim was stopped, but it's legit. Do you yet have a sense as to how many in there are actually fraudulent?
Sure. So we're saying 56,000 have been confirmed to be fraudulent, and those are people that reported to either the state police or DLT that they did not file a claim, that they received information that a claim was filed in their name.
Okay, so 56,000 confirmed fraudulent cases. Is that 56,000 of the 427,000?
Yes.
Okay. And the way to differentiate between legit and fraud, is the sole way to do it someone going to the state police website and telling you guys this is not legit?
That's the best way to do it. If someone were to call into DLT and tell us, we would accept that and help them as well. But we're working very closely with the state police and our law enforcement community. They have a portal set up. We're urging people to go to that portal, submit the information. We can make sure that we confirm it as fraud and lock it down.
Matt, put this into context. 427,000 suspected fraudulent unemployment claims. How many legit claims has DLT processed in the last year?
Well, we took a total of just about 900,000 claims, but that includes that 427,000 number and some duplicates. We've paid out to 397,000 individuals. 117,000 of those people were fraudsters. And unfortunately, those benefits were paid out before we were able to freeze those claims. That leaves the balance there where we had paid people legitimately. It's a lot of money. We're very concerned about it. And quite frankly, I'm mad. I'm angry that it happened. I'm angry that our tax-paying employers that contribute to our fund were victimized. And I'm angry for Rhode Island working families that can't get into our systems in the way that they should be able to, because these fraudsters, believe it or not, are calling us trying to validate their claims.
So we have sort of two buckets of information here, as you just broke down. Total amount paid, $2.8 billion. 91% of that, based on the information I'm looking at here, legit. 1% identified confirmed fraud. So it's a very small portion of the overall benefits paid out. But I do want to go back to the beginning of that answer. Did I hear you right? Nearly half of all claims for unemployment that went into Rhode Island are suspected fraud?
That's correct.
That is stunning.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Well, we've done a lot in the last year. We had to completely reform the way that we handle fraud. Traditionally, fraud was people were reporting other individuals as working and collecting, or something much more tangible. And now this imposter fraud, when somebody files a claim because they have somebody else's information, it's an international fraud scheme that's happened from coast to coast. It's required us to change everything we do. And the new cybersecurity software we use, the data analytics, our work with law enforcement partners has enabled us to stop an awful lot of claims. And that, like you just said, it's almost half of the total claims that were filed.
So that is kind of begs the next question, which is the guardrails that are set up to prevent this sort of fraud. You talked about, and I know your predecessor talked a little bit about this AI software that is being used to try and fish these things out. Do you have a sense as to its efficacy? In other words, are more claims being identified as fraudulent now than they were a year ago?
Absolutely. We refine it every single week. And the way artificial intelligence works is you have to train it. And the more that we've trained it, the more claims get stopped. Of course, the concern that we had in the beginning, and it's been a deep personal concern of mine for many, many months, is you need to be very careful when you stop claims, because you need to give people that are legitimately trying to collect a meaningful way to lift that stop and get reconnected with their benefits. Some states jump in and put very hard fraud prevention and detection tools in the front end. That prevents people from filing claims. You have to be careful. We have been. It's been a process that we've had to refine every week, but it's getting better.
How does Rhode Island compare to other states? As you point out, this is largely believed to be an international fraud scheme, which means they don't care where the borders of a state are. The bad guys don't care. But to what you just said, do you know how Rhode Island compares to other states in the country in terms of percentage of suspected fraud?
I don't have the percentage in front of me, but I can tell you that Massachusetts released recently that they've paid out about $600 million in suspected fraud or confirmed fraud. California's number was around $12 billion and growing. It's happening everywhere. And I'm involved in a national working group with labor directors from across the country. And a big part of our weekly call every week is what more can we do to stop this from happening?
So as I pointed out, I've been asking for these numbers for a long time, and I kept being told it's an ongoing criminal investigation. Now you're giving me the numbers. What changed besides maybe a change in leadership here? What changed where you guys felt comfortable in releasing this data?
Well, I support what former Director Jensen did in the beginning. This was an active investigation and very much part of an investigative record. We were building our process as we go, and we didn't want to tip our hand. However, the leadership change, I think, does mean something. As recently as a week ago Monday, former Director Jensen affirmed his decision to deny an APRA request for these records. I came in, I sat with the team, I thought on a couple of things that I may want to do differently, and I thought it was time to release this information. People have a right to know.
Couldn't agree with you more. Thanks, Matt. So, look, we field a lot of this, a lot of concern from people. I must have filed 20 stories on unemployment fraud, but not everybody sees those stories, and we get the same question every single day, primarily into 12 Responds, which I know you're familiar with. And what we keep telling them is, you got to fill out this form on the Rhode Island State Police website, link through on yours. And you touched on it at the beginning of the interview, but is that what we should continue to tell people? Is there anything else they need to know if they suddenly learn, oh my goodness, my identity was stolen for a fake jobless claim?
Well, absolutely. They should go to the state police portal and they should report it because it is part of our investigation. And it's important that we, A, lock down the claim as quickly as possible to prevent any money from going out that shouldn't, but also B, we put that in the investigative record and we take a look at every possible angle to help solve some of this. The other thing people should know is there are a lot of victims out there and people that didn't know they were victims. I had a claim filed in my name. Other people here in the department have had claims filed in their names. Go to your credit agencies, the 3 major credit bureaus, and check your credit for free, everyone. That's my recommendation. We don't know if they have your information. Please protect yourself.
So I want to, if I can, Matt, here real quick. I just want to read part of an email into 12 Responds, looking at it on the screen here, because it's one that we just get a lot, and I continually ask your agency about it, but I'm going to ask you again. So actually, ironically, this person's name is Matt, and he writes, I know you've heard this before, but I applied for unemployment on January 29th and have not heard back yet from the, quote, fraud team. He says, in October, I had to file a fraud claim because someone tried to file unemployment in my name. And because of that, I can't file a legitimate claim even after speaking to DLT twice. I'm told they can't do anything until fraud contacts me to close out the fraudulent claim. I know it's tough, Matt, but what do you say to this person? Because there are hundreds, if not thousands of people in their shoes.
This is why I'm so mad about why this all went down and the impact it has on Rhode Islanders, Tim. People that had claims filed in their name and then need to file themselves at some point in the future have to have that claim worked on by our fraud unit, which is not a significant number of people. We're training more and more people every day. We have people from the department that can go in and work on these claims, but you also have to be very careful. Once we hard lock a claim, only a handful of people can touch that. The work streams get much more difficult when fraudsters call us every day, when they file claims every day. We need to do more to prevent them from coming in on the front end and keep detecting them as quickly as possible. Individuals like that, I would say, keep calling. The systems that we're putting into place are helping people get information themselves. They're able to check in. They will be very soon able to check into their own status and get an actual real-time update on where their claim is. We're trying to leave that phone number, our DLT call center number, for individuals that need help like this person. And a lot of people call us every day and just have general questions. We're very happy to help them. But of course, that prevents other people from calling. We're taking over 1,000 calls a day from unique individuals. We have more people on the phones now than we've ever had in the history of this department, much more than when I came in at the end of the Great Recession. We're going to keep making improvements. I'm going to keep putting the right people on the phones to help people as much as we can. Please give us a chance. Please keep reaching out.
Just someone who's been reporting on this for a while, Matt, a candid observation here is one of the problems I think your agency is facing is when people fill out the state police form, they don't hear back. And so what do? They call you and they call you again and they call you again. And so your call center is being gummed up by people that really, when they reach out to me, I tell them, don't bother calling. If you filled out the state police form, you're not going to hear back from DLT. Is there any effort to have some sort of response when somebody fills out that fraud claim, and that would have hopefully the effect of easing the calls a little bit anyway into your call center?
Absolutely there is. And as I mentioned, this is my second week in the position. I just finished the first full week, and we're taking a look at some things that we need to do differently. We've done a lot to beef up our customer service, but some things that we absolutely need to be more responsive on. And one is just what you said. Someone files this report and they don't know what happens next. We need to communicate with them very clearly what happens next. We need to let them know these are the steps you should follow. I can't tell you how many emails I've sent personally to claimants in the last year, and a lot of them are the same, just giving people the same tips I just mentioned. Check your credit, register with the FTC, go in and do the things that the state police are going to tell you, or my staff will if you get through. We'd like to give you that information on the front end. And I agree with you. Selfishly, I'd like to keep calls from coming in so I can use the resources I have to help people that need to get paid.
Do you have any lens into the criminal investigation, Matt, in terms of how far along the FBI and other agencies are in this thing?
I don't. We work with them every single day. We have a person that's leading this effort that's formerly worked in law enforcement, and they spend every single day talking to their colleagues.
Okay. I do have to ask you, Matt, about the 1099-G forms within the context of fraud. We are now hearing from people, and my household got a 1099-G form in the mail, which, of course, as you know, indicates that jobless benefits are taxed. So the government's come in looking for taxes, even though people didn't get a jobless benefit. They're still getting the form in the mail. Do you have a sense yet as to how many of these 1099-G forms went out to people who didn't legitimately get any jobless benefits?
We don't necessarily know how many went out. I can tell you that at last count, there are about 3,000 people that reported to us that they received one and they never filed a claim. And those individuals we're working with, I hope to, in the next week or two, be able to get back to all of them and provide them with a voided or corrected 1099, because people that were victimized are not responsible for taxes, period.